Hello and welcome to Magic Gathering Strat. I'm Peyton. I've got another top 10 list for you guys today. This is the top 10 obnoxious creatures in this game. They're so sweet to play with, they get work done, they contribute to a deck being tier 1, but they absolutely suck to play against. Yeah. So, first of all, this is not a format-specific list. This is not for any particular format, but for every single card I will go ahead and note for which formats it is relevant so that you can get a general idea of where this card lives. Also, everything is in my opinion. It is not a definitive list, and therefore I want to know what you guys think. What creatures do you guys wish Wizards had never printed because they make tier 1 decks too good and they just suck to play against? Also, as a note, I have not included Stoneforge Mystic in this list. It is just such a known quantity in this point in Legacy that it just doesn't really piss people off anymore. They kind of know it's coming if you're playing against a Stoneblade deck. Things like that, yeah, I'm just going to leave Stoneforge Mystic alone for now. So, for the honorable mentions list, I want to start off with Laboratory Maniac. It's only annoying in breakfast decks because it's the win condition. If you counter their Dread Return, you're fine because they can't win. But otherwise, Laboratory Maniac is annoying because you can't win. They win. End of story for that. Up next is Ith, High Arcanist. Really a shitty card. Maze of Ith was printed because it's so much better. Yeah, so Maze of Ith on a stick sucks. He's in here because nobody plays him. Literally nobody plays him. I've never encountered a deck that uses this card, basically. And last we have Phage, kind of the same as Ith, and then that she's ridiculously annoying and can just win the game on the spot, but you don't really see Phage played too much, so she's not really that much of a threat in any format, really. So, in the number 10 spot, we've got a standard card that's been dominating the control zone. We've got Sin Collector. Sin Collector Beatdown is a thing. It plucks cards out of your hands, and the control matchup, the control mirror matchup, whoever resolves more Sin Collectors is pretty much going to win. Takes away options, pokes in for damage, really good, pretty damn annoying. In the number 9 spot, we've got Nimble Mongoose. This is sort of a staple in the Legacy decks like Rug Delver and Bug Delver, just because in the latter half of the game, it's a 3/3 with Shroud for 1 mana. And if you can't deal with it in creature combat, it's going to win the game. It can't be the target of kill spells. For many of these creatures, you'll notice you'll have to have a Liliana of the Veil to kill them, or some other sacrifice-like effect. Liliana is just the most prevalent in most of these formats. In the number 8 spot, we have Snappy Griller. Frickin' Snapcaster Mage. It's such a toolbox. Anything in your graveyard, you can use with this card. And it's a creature. It chump blocks, it's going to kill things, it's going to get in there for damage, and it's going to flash back things like Cruel Ultimatum and Lightning Bolt. Very annoying card, but it's still kind of a known quantity. Most people don't sweat it too much when Snappy comes into play because if it's a control deck and it's in Modern, it's probably running 3 or 4 Snapcaster Mage. That's just the gist of it. That's how it goes. But other than that, it's just annoying to play against. Oh, and one last thing before I talk about number 7. For the Snapcaster Mage, think about how underpowered it would be if it was just an instant and it costs 3 mana. Yeah, nobody would play that card. Nobody would. It's because it's a creature and it costs only 2 mana. That's why it's so good. Anyways, number 7 is Delver of Secrets. We all knew this guy would be on here. He's still going in Pauper and still going in Legacy. There are Legacy decks named after this guy. There are Pauper decks named after this guy. Delver Fiend in Pauper, Mono Blue Delver in Pauper, Rug Delver and Bug Delver in Legacy. You see decks featuring this guy all the time. He turns into a 3/2 flyer for a mere 1 mana, and all you have to do is build a deck around him that runs a ton of support cards like Lightning Bolt, and you're good to go to deal all kinds of annoying damage in this card. When he was legal in Standard and he was finally rotated out, people playing Delver decks cried, and people not playing Delver decks rejoiced. And it was a new day for Delver because he was gone. And I have not really seen him play too much in Modern, although he's there a little bit. He's mostly in Pauper and Legacy, so yeah, fine. Aberration dies to a shock, dies to all kinds of things, but it's still annoying. Nobody likes playing against it. Number 6, we have Voice of Resurgence. This card is kind of a staple in many Standard decks, and sees play in Legacy decks like Maverick, and also a little bit in Junk decks. Junk and Taxes, and Green-White Death and Taxes comes to mind for that in Legacy. It's annoying because your counter spells give your opponents creatures if you're playing a control deck. And when it dies, it replaces itself sometimes with a creature that's bigger than 2/2. So it's really powerful, probably more so than Wizards expected, and it was a $50 Standard card at one point. Very, very obnoxious. The number 5 spot is the only EDH general that makes the list, and that is Norin the Wary. Norin decks tend to be pretty damn annoying. He's hard to get rid of, and he only costs 1 mana. He just blinks left and right. You kind of need a Liliana or some kind of sack effect or a creature ability of some kind to kill him. But, frickin' Norin. His decks are fun to play with. I kind of love to play with Norin decks. Get your Genesis Chamber out there. Get your Conjurer's Closet. Start making creatures. Fun stuff. Playing against a Norin deck, kind of crazy. All they have to do is resolve a Stranglehold and a Genesis Chamber, and perhaps a Perforos, and maybe a Pandemonium, and the game is theirs, in many cases, since countering Norin the Wary is a pain in the ass to do. Frickin' Norin. Anyway, number 4 is the only card from Vintage on here, and that is Lodestone Golem. Mud decks were not really too much of a thing until this guy rolled around. He's the number 1 beater in Vintage Mud decks. He has absolutely no effect on the Mud player, and yet makes it nigh unwinnable, the game nigh unwinnable for the guy playing the Tinker deck across the table. If the Mud player can resolve enough spear effects, sphere style effects like Sphere of Resistance, they can just bash you to death with a Golem. They could easily whip out this 5-power creature on turn 1 with a Mishra's Workshop and a Mox. It's not hard to do, and it really, really puts an advantage on the Mud player when they start resolving this guy turn 1 and 2. So, number 3, we've got Kiki-Jiki. Everyone's favorite Modern card. It's annoying because it's the basis of infinite combos. You can go infinite in Kiki Pod, you can go infinite in Splinter Twin. If you don't counter Kiki-Jiki, and they have one of these 2 aforementioned cards in play, you kind of have to deal with infinite creatures. Well, that's why Rakdos Charm was printed, guys. Rakdos Charm. Go look it up. Start playing it in your sideboard if you're playing black and red. It absolutely screws over Splinter Twin. Plus, it has a plethora of other uses like dealing with Affinity. Yeah, cool stuff. That's just a side note, but Kiki-Jiki is pretty annoying, and the fact that it has haste means that if you try to kill it, they'll just respond by making a ton of creatures. So, yeah, Kiki-Jiki, very annoying card. In the number 2 spot, we've got a card that's relevant in a very, very, very large number of formats, and that is Young Pyromancer. There are decks featuring Young Pyromancer in Modern, and in Standard, and in Legacy, and I've even seen a couple of copies in this guy in decks like Melik is at Paragon and EDH. I believe Silver Black has a few Young Pyromancer decks floating around out there. Just because that effect. Guess what? My Lightning Bolt also gets me a creature. That's great. Oh, Snapcaster Mage gets me an extra creature when I use a flashback and play another instant or sorcery. Haha. I mean, it just swarms the board very, very quickly. And if you don't have an answer to it, it can spawn enough elementals to just win the game by itself, even if they just have a few instants and sorceries. It's also got 2 power, so it can get in there for a little bit of damage itself. Young Pyromancer, very relevant in many formats. damn annoying to play against. In the number 1 spot here today, we have got a card that was very recently printed. It was printed in Commander 2013, and it became a staple in Legacy overnight. You all know what I'm talking about. It's true name Nemesis. God damn it, I hate playing against this card. It's ridiculously annoying. The only way to get rid of it is through an indirect sacrifice effect, and even that can be stopped with something like a Leyline of Sanctity. True name Nemesis is the definition of the clock. It's a 3/1 that is really hard to kill. It's unblockable. Put a sword on this guy and you win the game. That's basically it. At one point, this card was rolling at $57 to $60, and that is twice what the MSRP for Commander 2013 was. Ridiculous. Ridiculously powerful, yet pretty broken. So True Name Nemesis is obnoxious to deal with, and that's why you should be playing Liliana the Veil. I think Liliana's up to $70 now, probably because of this guy. She's a great answer to him, especially if he's the only creature on board. So that's it for this list, and kind of a rant. I want to know what you guys think. Once again, post those comments. What creatures are the most odious to you? Absolutely, I want to find out. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and if you want another top 10 video, you can request the list. I will do my best to accommodate you guys. I love doing these top 10s, and look forward to doing more in the future, so thank you for watching.